What's up, agency owners? Excited to have you listening to the show today. I have one of our long term mastermind members who has grown several agencies over the years and really has taken. Today, we're going to talk about the amazing things that he's learned over the years and applied them to his current agency that he's doing right now. I think you're really going to love this episode, so let's get into it. Hey, Drew, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me on.
So you're the first guest to actually be in the intro on the mountain waving back to the drone. So
Oh
I,
yeah,
I was just watching that. I was like, oh, there's Drew. So,
yeah.
well, I
That's a great
distract us.
experience.
Yeah. So tell us who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, I'm Drew Hendricks. Right now, I'm running two agencies. One's Nimble Toad, which is a generalist agency, and the other one's a brand new venture called Barrels Ahead, which is sort of the culmination of everything I've learned over the last 30 years of running agencies.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you actually started an agency before me. So tell us kind of how did you get into it and tell us kind of the origin story.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. In college, I majored in philosophy and Attic Greek with the goal of becoming a professor of philosophy. And upon graduating, I ended up finding myself in San Francisco and kind of buying my time until I could go get a PhD, and ended up getting a job as a stock boy at a wine store and realized I had a really good palate for wine. And from then on, I just sort of started reading everything I could about wine and learning everything I could, and figured out that this super interesting and there was just so much knowledge that could be done there. So I ended up sticking around for 10 years in that wine store, revamped it to change the name, rebranded it, wrote one of the first websites back in 95 or so, wrote a wine auction site. And from there in 98, started the first agency, which was Vintelect, which helped independent wine stores compete with better leveraged chain stores. Like right then, Bevmo had just started launching, Trader Joe's was coming up in the ranks, and then Total Wine. So we helped wine stores with their marketing.
Wow, that's
And after
incredible.
that,
And especially going back to 95. Hell, man, I remember back in 95, we were all getting the AOL CDs for the free internet.
oh no, that was definitely the time.
Or was
And
it
eBay had
Prodigy?
just launched.
Oh, wow.
Pardon?
Or it was Prodigy, right? Like if I
Oh,
could
but yeah,
think.
before that, no, in college it was Prodigy. I had a Prodigy account. That was, there was a in college. I remember the first day that we actually got connected to the internet, and I found it so interesting. I went to the school library and I was able to connect. I went to Gonzaga. It went to Gonzaga, and I was able to connect to the UCSD library down in California, and from there I could get out to a library in Europe. And it blew my mind that I was able to go from Gonzaga to UCSD to Europe. And from then on, I kind of caught the bug. And right then, HTML had just started coming into it. And we actually wrote one of my first philosophy presentations actually had hyperlinks in it back in 92.
So front page or Dreamweaver or just plain text editor?
Dreamweaver. This was precursor to Dreamweaver.
That's true. Yeah. I guess it was like Netscape Composer.
Yep. Yeah, it was. You're making my mind doesn't go back that far as the tools, but yeah, it was a lot of Perl scripts and CGI scripts
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
back then.
Well, let's talk about kind of the journey, or what are some of the lessons since you've had several agencies over the years. What are some lessons that you'd like to share with the audience listening in?
I think one of the biggest ones and this is one that I only recently have come to the realization of, and it's actually been through this mastermind group, your mastermind group, that really helped me realize the difference between an entrepreneur and an agency owner, and the importance of what an entrepreneur is. Because we usually most of the agencies that I founded were the result of a problem. Like I'd see a client would come in, they'd have an issue, and I'd figure out how to solve it. We'd build them a site, we'd build them like a web platform, and then I'd figure, man, well, I can sell more of that. And then I become an authority in their problem, but not really an authority on the actual agency. So what happens is we end up building, we have 10, 12, 15 clients, all that solve very different problems, authority on all these different problems, but not an actual authority on running the agency. And I think this last iteration was took the best of what we knew about and what our skill set is at Nimbletoad, and we're finding experts now to actually perform the processes that we do. Whereas I can now sit back as an entrepreneur and solve the problem of what actually can make that agency grow. And I think too many people are stuck in actually doing the work rather than kind of treating the agency as the project.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that so true with, I look at running an agency in kind of like 6 stages of climbing a mountain, right? So from the staging part before you embark on, making the climb to, base camp to the climbing the crux, the crest all the way to the summit. And right in the middle, right? Like it's kind of right in the middle is where you actually start working on the business. Like that's how you can kind of get to the next level rather than in. And like I was, always say in the mastermind, it's like in the very beginning, you're constantly always thinking about the what and how. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You should be focused on who can do it? Who do I need to hire? Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone else but you.
Yeah, that was a huge learning curve for us and for our agency, figuring out actually that although I can do it, I'm not the best person to be doing it. Was a huge step.
So how did you get over that? Because there's a lot of people listening right now that they struggle with that. Like they're literally like, well, no one could do it as good as me.
It was learning to say no and learning about where you want to grow. Because like you said, with that plateau, if you're trying to be the authority in everything, you're an authority in nothing. So you really have to pick your battle. And if you want to be the best web developer out there or the best SEO person, go get an in-house job at another agency and you can be the top dog for SEO. But if you want to run a company, that needs to be your top priority and you can't do both.
Exactly. Yeah, I tell people too is like 80% is better than you doing your full thing on it. Because you're
Mm-hmm.
doing 1,000 different things. Even if they're not at your 100%, they're still ahead of you because you're doing so much so many other things. So I'm like, just if you can
Mm-hmm.
find someone to do 80%, to get there. Or I was interviewing someone not too long ago who was also in the mastermind Canopy guys, and he was struggling with delegating, and everything had to flow through him. He was like the toll booth of everything that had to go through on operations. And finally, Brian, his partner, went to him. His name is Brian as well. So I was like, "How did you guys start an agency, Brian and Brian?" And he goes,
Mm-hmm.
"Look, I just need you to document 50%. And then that's a good foundation the team can take and build upon." And it's changed everything for them. And now they're, their agency is well, into the summit and beyond and beyond.
Yeah, those guys are rocking.
Yeah. Um, One thing I want to ask you, and you talked about this. I was just thinking about it. I know I didn't tell you to pre-plan for it,
Mm-hmm.
but you did an incredible "What's Working Now," at the Digital Agency Experience not too long
Oh
ago
yeah.
about proposals, of what you've learned. So tell the listeners a little bit about that because I thought that was brilliant.
That I'm glad you brought that up. So over the years of writing proposals, I have figured out, and I don't want to say it's a secret sauce, but it's something that's worked real well to help position the um, the proposal and defray the pricing and justify it through very objective terms. So what happens in the pre-talk, and this is the secret sauce, guys. So you
Listen in.
So what happens in the pre-talk is you always ask, who are your biggest competitors? So if it's an SEO person, you're going to ask, who do you want to outrank? Or if it's a pay-per-click, or if it's even a local business, you need to get a list of the top 3 or 4 people that they want to actually outrank and compete against. So then in the proposal stage, you take those 3 competitors and you run them through your tools, whether it's SpyFu or any of those business intelligence programs, which will give you a good idea of what those competitors are spending on SEO or spending on pay-per-click, which allows you to come up with a proposal. and a pricing of that proposal with instant justification. So then when I walk the person through the proposal, I list the competitors as the first thing. I'm like, we went back to our desk, put pencil to paper. You guys want to compete against these people. They're spending X on SEO. This guy's spending X on SEO. And this other third competitor is not spending anything on SEO, but he's spending a ton on pay-per-click. So if we want to compete against these three people, this is where you need to be. And it instantly, suddenly, if the retainer's 10 grand a month, that may be what it is. And if they go, whoa, that's way too much, the instant objectification is, well, you may need to play in a smaller pond because these aren't your competitors.
I think it's so brilliant. It's such punching him in the mouth. Uh, you know, feel like, well, it's kind of like shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
It's like, do you really want to compete against them? Because, and it's really compelling. Like, I never thought about it. When you shared that, like, I was like, that's really interesting. Like, I wish I did that on their proposals. Like, if you really want to compete against them, because at the end of, like, I used to, like, I don't care who your competitors were, because, we were in the design business, right? Like, I didn't want to be sidetracked with designing something that looked like someone else. But like with the SEO or the pay-per-click, like you're talking about, like in comparing them and then hitting them in the mouth of going, well, maybe you need to go play in a smaller pond. Like, that's fine.
No one wants to hear that either. So it's the best objection, saying, well, that's our pricing, or it's the best refutal or rebuttal.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. I mean, we could end the interview now. I think everybody would be happy. What's another strategy that you've learned over the years that you want to share with the audience?
I would say be quick to respond. So many people worry about, if I'm too quick to respond, they're going to think I'm too anxious, or let's set up another date. I want them to know that I'm busy, but that's never worked out for me. I think you got to be genuine. And if you really want it, show your enthusiasm. And actually, the other thing is, and this ties into anybody outside of the agency, even applying for a job. We've been interviewing for an operations manager right now, and I'm been through so many interviews. I cannot tell you the last time someone actually entered the interview saying, I'm really excited about this position. I feel like I'd be a great fit. I can't wait to work for you. And the same thing when you're saying a proposal or you're talking, everybody plays hard to get. If you're excited about winning the client, be honest and be enthusiastic. Let them know that you are stoked to be doing this.
Yeah.
And I don't see that too often.
Yeah, it's such an easy thing. And like, if I wish we could actually have the permission to use the cut from Vince Vaughn and Swingers. You remember when the one guy gets the girl's phone number and he goes to his friends, how long should I wait? And they're like, 7 days, 8 days, 2 weeks. And he's like calling her like over and over again. Like, we've all seen that. And, I took the approach you took, Drew. So if someone reached out on our website, I literally would call them while they're still on the website. And I would always call and I would say, hey, this is Jason from Solar Velocity. I'm so sorry it took me so long to call you back. Yeah. And they're like, I just hit submit. I'm like, well, that's how prompt we are. Like, we really want to, chat with you. And like, thinking back, we won so many deals. Like, we were almost a quarter way done the deals when they actually would be like, hey, we're still getting proposals, like the first proposals from reaching out to people. Like, idiots. You guys watch the movie Swingers.
Yep. That is definitely show enthusiasm and ask for the sale.
And that's an important thing too. Yeah. Ask for the sale. I'm doing training for you guys coming up around sales. And like, one of the parts that, as I was doing this training, I was like, when we're auditing our salespeople, which you should be doing weekly, one of the things you should be looking for is your salesperson asking for the sale?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the most important part. That's kind of like giving away everything and then going, all right, well, chat with you later.
Yep.
Like, ask for the freaking sale. Brilliant. Awesome. Drew, this has been amazing, man. And I don't know what's taken me so long to get you on the podcast. So I'm so glad. And I'm glad that we actually saw you on the podcast on the mountain waving. That was
Oh
pretty
yeah,
cool.
no, that if the listeners that don't know, Jason's got a mountain's house, Swenk Mountain. It's quite the climb, but it beautiful view looking over the lake, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun, especially the first year. You've been out there twice, and the first year was kind of fun. No one really knew what to expect hiking up and at high elevation, and it was kind of fun watching people.
Yeah, because you're at what, 10,000 feet or no, 8,000?
No, the top of the mountain is 8,200.
82. See, I get the elevations all messed up. I was talking with another member of the mastermind about going over Engineer Pass on my podcast,
That was
Legends Behind the Craft.
13,000.
Yeah, and on the podcast, I talked about how we went over a 10,000-foot peak. I think it's a little, yeah.
Yeah,
I missed
it's
about
higher. Yeah,
1,000
so
feet.
the one we took, the ATVs, yeah, that was
Mhm.
13,000. So you were way up there, above the tree
That was
line.
an incredible experience.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I can't wait for you guys to come back out. Um, is there anything I didn't ask you, Drew, that you think would benefit the audience?
I would say just figure out what you don't know. Figure out what you don't do and start there. I think there's a TV commercial that maybe Matthew McConaughey was talking about that, but don't say yes to everything and figure out what you don't want to do, and then find a referral partner to refer that out to.
Yeah,
That's so important because you don't have to actually lose the business. You can get the business back with a referral to another agency.
yeah, awesome. Or I'll say, all right, all right. Where can people check out the agency?
Go to barrelsahead.com and you can find me on Twitter at Drew Hendricks or um, Facebook at Drew Hendricks.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Drew, for coming on the show. You rocked it. You killed it. Gave a lot of really good information and strategies people can go execute now. So if you guys like this and you want to hear more of this and be surrounded by really cool people like Drew and so many others, I'd love to have you guys all check out the digitalagencyelite.com. It should be scrolling up, or for the listeners, you just it's a pretty easy name. That's why we picked it, digitalagencyelite.com. Go there, check it out. And it's an amazing group of people growing and ascending the mountain faster together rather than all alone by your lonesome self. So, and until next time, have a swank day.